we need these people? We don't need them. What Nigerians should do is face them in the next election. Make sure that all of these guys are made to lose elections in their various constituencies. The only way we can change the way they behave is to elect responsible people. So as I'm putting myself forward as a candidate to change Nigeria, there are also senators. And those of you who have not decided, you can step up here and also go home with us and run for office. And we will come and campaign for you. Because we have the movement that can make it happen. If we say that we trust this person and we present you, we will go and campaign for you anywhere. There's nowhere that I cannot go and campaign in Nigeria. Let me tell you, the greatest fallacy of all time that politicians tell about Nigeria is that Nigeria is complex to govern. And that Nigeria is also big. Nigeria is not big. Nigeria, you can travel Nigeria, you can travel to one end of Nigeria and come back the same day. And you still have time to do other things. There's nowhere in Nigeria that you cannot fly to in 1 hour, 30 minutes. Lagos to Maiduguri is the furthest. This US, you fly from the East Coast to the 6 hours, you still haven't arrived there. People who be going to London will arrive before you arrive. But yet, there's a highway connecting the East Coast to the West Coast. What is it called? I-95. So, but there's no highway that connects one village to the other in Nigeria. So, but bozos will be telling you that Nigeria is a complex country to govern. If it's so complex to govern, why do we even govern the place in the first place? We have just left it to the colonial masters to be managing. So, this is a lie they tell you all the time. The same thing they will tell you of states, that states are complex to govern. But go and look at what the state governors are stealing. They will not pay salaries of workers, but they never miss their security votes. Some state governors have security votes as much as 2 billion naira per month, and their wage bill for the whole month might just be 2.5. But they will not pay the workers, but they will take home the wage bill. And I like to keep pointing to our brother here from Abia State, because the money that was supposed to be used to take care of Abia, they used it to set up an airline, Slok Airline, and they also set a bank up in Gambia, FSB Bank in Gambia. So that was what Kalu, when Kalu was done with it, he handed it over to another thief, Oji. The two of them are Oji, right?
Yeah.
They are both Oji.
Yeah.
And in Rorobo land, Oji means thief. So you people be careful who you vote for sometimes. Minimum wage that you mentioned. The minimum wage in Nigeria is not a living wage. And it is a shame that we are even debating 100,000. What is 100,000 naira? 100,000 naira is equivalent of how much in $200. Is there any one of you here who can survive on $200 a week? That is the truth. But you can say that the U.S. economy is big. But here is how the U.S. calculates its minimum wage. If you work in New York, and I have worked in the U.S. for 19 years, and my first job was paying me $7.25. I was a security guard. Then in 1990, I had a fire license in those days. You know, I was a very good security guard. And I was working in a store. And you discover that your first hour of work can buy you a bagel, can buy your coffee, and also the cards to the travel card, Metro card. And you will still have about $3 left. That's your first hour of work in New York, when the minimum wage was $7.25. Today, I think it's even higher. Minimum wage in New York has gone further. The minimum wage in Nigeria is $49. No, $49. Maybe let's say $50. What that does to people is that first, there is no incentive to work. Simple. An average worker in Nigeria has other jobs. If you go to a government office, it's like a shop. Sure. They are selling clothes. They are selling anything. Some people will bring yam and be selling in the office because their wages cannot support them. So it's not a living wage. South Africa just increased their minimum wage to 3,500 rand 3 weeks ago. But the Nigerian economy is bigger than the South African economy, even by world standard. So our minimum wage right now is a crime against humanity. But let me break down the minimum wage story to you. In Nigeria, when people earn more, they empower the local economy and it has multiplier effect. They are producing some of the best shoes in Aba, but nobody cares about it. We prefer to go to Italy. Sure. Go and buy their nonsense.
Buy Gucci.
Right? But guess what? If a worker is collecting 100,000, they will want to buy shoes. They will go to Aba. The man in Aba who is producing the shoe will be forced to hire more people to produce more shoes because now workers are buying more shoes. Workers are buying more clothes. So you create a local economy that will be booming because somebody who has 100,000 naira is not sending it to you in America. But it will put less pressure on you. You are spending $5,000 every month, you said, just now, to support people at home. If the minimum wage is increased, that your 5,000 you are spending, you will spend less. Because when people have living wage, they also get dignity and pride. Not many people love to ask for money from abroad, from you. But when they have no option, they have to beg you to send them money. If they can earn some little thing, nobody wants to debase himself because we know what goes with the 5,000 we send, you know. We would have abused them. Don't call me again. I know this last time I'm sending you money. All this kind of interaction is what we have when we're sending money home. But you look at it, when America has economic problems, what do? They invest in their people. When there was a recession in America under Obama, what they did? They invested, they even gave loans to companies, they gave loans and grants to airlines. You know, that was how Ford got revived. But in Nigeria, anytime we have economic problem, we take money away from our people. Suddenly, we'll be moving the money to Dubai. What do you think is making the Dubai economy or the UAE economy buoyant? It's Nigerian money. What is making, you just mentioned here that, 30 women come here and deliver. Maybe you are doing it for free. Some people don't do it for free. Yes, they will bring money with it. You know, some people are even arranging it. Maybe you are doing it as a humanitarian, but all those things are monies that are taken from India. Receives 2 billion naira from Nigeria in medical tourism. Exactly. But India wasn't a place to go for medical care. Some 10 years ago, they deliberately attracted their best home. They attracted their technical people home. And India also became a tech hub. So, minimum wage that we are proposing to pay to Nigerians is to take the wealth from people who are stealing it and give it to people who need it. Nigeria's economy has been funding the greedy. It is time that it starts to take care of its needy.
Take it! Take it!
So that's our position on minimum wage. Minimum wage is actually not enough yet. But what do you find out about Nigeria? When we did the calculation of our minimum wage, it will add $1.5 billion to the wage bill. But it will cost us less. Do you know another problem? 21% of the Nigerian workforce, they are post workers. But we can use technology to purge the civil service. And that 21% will save Nigeria money. And we can employ younger people to go into the civil service and make it work for the people. One final thing I will say to you is that don't forget that federal workers are also soldiers who are dying, at war front against Boko Haram. Do you actually want to be a soldier who is dying for $49, for your country? Probably not. So you have to incentivize workers if you want to have a functioning modern civil service. And it's not going to be with $49. Nigeria has one of the least paid workers in the African sub-region, in the sub-Saharan region, when it comes to minimum wage. The only other countries that are paying less than Nigeria, or about Nigeria's rate, is South Sudan, Sierra Leone, and Liberia. Countries that just pass through war. I mean, I will agree with you that Nigeria is still at war, against the elites fighting its people. But it's just unconscionable that we are paying we are denying our movement the opportunity to take Nigeria back. And you're also denying us the opportunity of getting some of the PDP money you have in your pocket.
Is that convenient?
It's a joke. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much. The next question is going to be from the Deputy Mayor of Newark, Deputy Mayor Ugochukwu Nwokoro. Round of applause for him, please. Put your hands together.
My brother, well, you already know how I feel about you. So, but just to add to what Dr. Obilaw, eminent Charlie Chike, the attorney, for the courage. It's not easy to dabble into Nigerian politics. But just today, before I left my office, I was trying to see some of your videos about these politics. And then I came across a Channel TV interview of Babangida. And the interviewer was asking him about, that he actually started this thing about the unity of Nigeria is sacrosanct, cannot be talked about, cannot be discussed. That's Babangida's position.
Yes.
So regardless of what you say or about Nigeria, you can't talk about Nigeria being divided.
Yes.
So, and then he said that you can't do that. And the interviewer asked him why. He said it's not fair to those Nigerians, about between 2 to 3 million Nigerians that died during the Nigerian Biafra Civil War.
Yeah.
And I asked, I'm like, you only answered one part of that question. What about those Southeasterners? Almost between 6 to 8 million Southeasterners that died during the same war, running away from Nigeria. If you continue to not discuss the same issues that they died for, is it fair? Also, when you answer whether it's fair or not, what is your position? How do you solve that problem? The problems that have continued to come up every time. Everybody knows what happened last year, and it's still happening with the IPOB.
Yes.
And the secession movement. So I just want to hear your answer. Thank you.
Thank you. As I have mentioned, and I will keep saying, I did not partake in the war, but that did not mean that I did not know that a civil war took place that claimed 3 million people. And one of the first things I will do as Nigeria's president next year is to apologize to the Igbos. But the apology must not stop there. We must do something beyond that to cement what happened in a way that is just. What they keep telling you about Nigerians' unity not being negotiable is that they don't want to do justice in Nigeria, and they don't want Nigerians to complain about the injustices in the country. So anytime you are met with injustice and you say you are tired of it, they will tell you that the unity of Nigeria is not negotiable. By who? The truth is that not negotiating Nigeria's unity has torn Nigeria apart. It is the reason why people are asking for restructuring. Because the Nigerian state they know is no longer working for a lot of Nigerians. I said it, that Nigeria has become the Federal Republic of injustice. And as long as there's no justice, there can never be unity. You cannot legislate unity of Nigeria on the pages of newspaper or via an interview. No, you have to do it by way of justice. And what we have seen, even with our brothers at IPOB, is that in calling for a secession from Nigeria, they are asking for justice within Nigeria. That if we must stay in Nigeria, Nigerians must recognize that they have done an unjust act against the Southeast that led to the loss of plenty of lives and are still leading to the loss of plenty of lives. As I mentioned, the fact that the Southeast could not have more than one bridge linking it since the end of the Civil War is a deliberate act. Because somehow Somebody doesn't want the Southeast to grow faster than they thought could threaten the so-called unity of Nigeria. Because they know the ingenuity and the innovative mind of a Southeasterner that, you know, nothing can stop them. But guess what? The Southeasterners too understand that if Nigeria is not there, there's no place to do their business. If we secede from Nigeria, let's say that all the Southeasterners are going back home. What about those mansions in Abuja? How do you take them with you? What about the ones in Lagos? There's a popular song in Lagos. I don't know if you have heard it before. You know, they say that it's one of these Southeasterners who is a very good hip-hop singer. He said, my landlord has become my tenant. Yes, it's not P-Square. Zorro. I love the song. And it might sound like a joke. It's what has happened because a lot of people who were renting houses have worked so hard and they bought the houses from their tenants. Yes. In the 90s, and I'm telling you this, most people did not know this. People who will come and carry babes at the University of Lagos, they were spare part sellers. So when they come, people will be making fun of them, say they are spare part sellers. You know what they were doing? They were so upset. When the university started setting up satellite campuses, they started enrolling to get a degree. And by now, you are not likely to find any of those guys who don't have a degree. The ones who don't have a degree are so upset about being made fun of in those days that they are sending their children to school. Massively, anywhere they can find school, they will send their children to school. So you no longer have the Southeast of spare part sellers anymore. They have modernized the business by getting educated. And that is what has happened. Everything that has come with development in Southeast is as if it was done by hand. The people who have to build their own roads, build their own houses in the Southeast. Nigeria as a nation is accepting of every other person. But when it comes to issues of the Southeast, they don't want to discuss it. They say the unity of Nigeria is not negotiable. But the same Nigeria did not implement the conditions of the war, ending the war, which is the triple R. Right? And I'm not saying it here to appeal to any sentiment. It is the truth. And Nigeria must address that. But I also say, one step further, that there's nowhere you go to in Nigeria that people don't also have problems that makes them feel that they are not part of Nigeria. The Niger Delta region, where all of the oil money is coming from, is it not the same thing? When they had problem, you know, Kensaruwa went there and said, let's resolve the problem. They sacrificed Kensaruwa to oil companies. And now look at what we are paying for it. If the next election is held, Buhari doesn't have 12 million votes anymore because there's nobody who is voting for him in Plateau State. Nobody who is voting for him in Southern Kaduna. Nobody voting for him in Benue. Nobody voting for him in a lot of parts of Taraba. And certainly he's not getting any votes from the Southeast or the South-South or the Southwest that I know. So where is he going to get the 12 million votes from? It's because deliberately they have allowed a lot of crises to fester because of this nonsense about Nigeria's unity is non-negotiable. But what is left of the Nigerian flag? It's torn. It's bloodied. That is the truth. I'm saying this because for me this is a moment of truth, and this is what is going to guide the engagement with the future of Nigeria going forward. I support restructuring. Do I want Nigeria to break up? No. Yes. And the reason I don't want Nigeria to break up is that if I can have the whole of Africa as one country, I will take it. The beauty of America today is hugeness.
It's unity.
Unity. Not unity. America's unity is also negotiable with diversity. And because it's a federal state. But why is it that the Hausa man and the Igbo man and Yoruba man get along in New Jersey? It's because on Friday you get paid your salary, or you can live wherever you want to live. But if we had to be dealing with poverty and other things, then we'll be having problems even with Palestinians, we'll be having problems with your neighbors who are Italians, you'll be having problems with everybody in the US. Because in this area alone, there's no country in the world, there's no tribe in the world that's not represented in New York City. Well, why is it that we can get along And in Nigeria, we can't get along is because there's no economic justice, there's no political justice, there's no cultural justice, there's no justice, period. And until we address those things holistically and fundamentally, even our constitution is a fraud put together by the military. And they inserted a fraudulent word there and said, we the people of Nigeria. Which people of Nigeria was there when they made the constitution? Was it you or me? And when they talk about restructuring, my problem with restructuring is that we are not represented on the table of restructuring. It seems the same old people who have been using the restructuring Nigeria into their pockets. The moment they lose out of the election, they start shouting restructuring. That's not the kind of restructuring we need. Anybody who says that Buhari is too old to rule Nigeria is also too old to restructure Nigeria. That's the position. We know all these people. Let the Nigerian people come and discuss the future of Nigeria. One of the things we need to do within the first 4 years of our coming together is to find a way to fashion out even a new constitution for Nigeria. And we don't have to dissolve Nigeria to get a new constitution. What it means is that the constitution will deal with even areas that are not handled right now. For example, you know, in where we live here, every town, every city has a police department. We can have it in Nigeria too, right? Yes. As a matter of fact, now we do have it, but they call them vigilantes, killing for the governors. But there will be a rule of engagement between the police department at the local government level, at the state level, in a way that they cannot be abused. So the argument that because the governor might use the police to oppress somebody, we can't have a state police, is not tenable, it's superfluous. Reason is this: the governor that is using police to oppress people will not be there forever. The country will keep dynamically dealing with some of their excesses, but the structure that we need to put in place for a just society will be there, for a functioning society will be there, and they will live above and beyond the people that are there now. And the Babangidas of this world who are granting interviews are supposed to be in prison, considering what they did against the Nigerian state, truncating democracy, you know, planning and plotting coups all the time. They even killed their friends summarily. They murdered people, murdered students, and they are the ones we go to when we want to talk about the future of the country, and they'll be telling you the nonsense that Nigeria's unity is non-negotiable. Who said that? Nigeria's unity is non-negotiable as long as there's justice in Nigeria. If there's no justice, there's no unity. That's the truth. But we'll bring justice, and people would love to be in Nigeria once again. That's all I can assure you from here.
Thank you so much. All right. I want to remind our viewers that this town hall meeting is brought to you by We4We TV. If you're not yet our friend on social media, please add us on Facebook and on Instagram. Just search for We4We TV and Vow Media Entertainment. Thank you so much, Mr. Omoyole. Our next question is going to be from Honorable Victor Ibeka.
Thank you very much, Friday. My name is Victor Ibeka Ebenchuku. I am an honorable member in the City of Orange Diaspora Commission under the chairmanship of Honorable Carl Onyuke. And I'm also the vice president of the most upright socio-cultural group of the Igbo nation called Odimane here in New Jersey under the leadership of my Igwe Kebonomara. I want to thank you very much for this wonderful time you spent with us. Coming here today, I had so many questions after watching you, the way you talk to other politicians in Nigeria. But after listening to you, I have a change of mind. I think I like you. I like you hearing from you, and I want to tell you right now that, like you said, we send so much money back home. The people I send money to back home are going to vote for you.
Thank you.
Yes, take that from me, and I encourage everybody to do the same. I just have one question. You're a young person, and I appreciate the fact that you're coming out for the president of to contest for the president of Nigeria. It's not easy Now, we kind of condemning the old folks that have been there for so many years. But now, what will be your strategy in terms of inclusiveness between the old folks and the young generation, those living in Nigeria and those living here in the diaspora? Like you rightly indicated, we have so many wonderful professionals here in America. Do you intend using some of those good hands with you when you become the president of Nigeria? Because I want you to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe what we should do is take the last two questions so that we can answer all of them at once. Is that something we can do?
Yes. All right, we can do that. Do we have Engineer John Okafor, please?
Hello, good evening. My name is John Okafor. Actually, I have some things to explain, then I'll ask a few questions. I'm actually a student of both history and science, so I have seen things happen in the whole world. I've been in this country almost 37, 38 years. What happened in South Africa, the system of government, every party system of government, the way they bring changes, even during the time of Martin Luther King, is always had to be a max kind of protest. People gonna be making noise, talking about it. Now, the way we want to change the system in Nigeria is bringing a new presidential candidate who would make promises. And we have to be recycling the same thing over and over again. And sometimes the president wants to do something, want to make changes. It might be over the person's head, it might be almost impossible due to there's a lot of bad people in Nigeria. Now, what I mean by bad people, I mean our senators or state reps. So my question would be, you have to follow the money to know why things are bad. Now, would you make a promise like, if you win today, win the presidency today, the president shouldn't be making more than $400,000 a year. The senators shouldn't be making more than $280,000. The House reps, not more than $200,000 a year. And when you do this, people will not be killing themselves to be a president or be a senator. The truthful people who want to actually help can come out. Then when those people come out, then the problem will be solved. Now, you can do things like, you can get around, you can actually like you, I would like you to be this kind of president who I name. But you might be like, what's the last president, the president we just have now. John Jonathan, the one we still have now. What's it? I try to, let me get money from these people. You only do it from other, other selective individuals who don't do it with your own people. But if you come and knock the money down, why would America, how much is the president of the United States making? They're way, way, way better than us. Should we actually make it half of it? Let's say, give them 400,000. You know, why would you make enough money? 700, I don't even know. When I had the numbers, when I was listening to you, when I had the numbers, I couldn't even believe it. So maybe we'll start from this. A lot of people here who want to even jump into being a senator or doing something, I think, oh, the money is small, I don't have to do that anymore. You know, then the truth, you know, full people can come out, and that might even encourage our children to say, all right, I can be a business person, I can be a doctor and make more money. Now, all of us, everybody wants to be either a senator or something so that they can run
back from the people who are tired, who are incompetent, who are corrupt, who are deceptive, and dishonest. Please, let's take Nigeria back once and for all. And by this time next year, we will be happy that we met and we exchange ideas, and ideas will become a liberating force for Nigeria and Nigerians everywhere. Thank you.
Can you say the site again, the contribution?
The contribution site is GoFund gofundme.com/Sowore2019. Yes.
Wow, Amadi is going to give us the closing remarks. Wow, Amadi.
Yes. Once again, thank you very much. I am very, very, very happy to be in the midst of wonderful people like you tonight. And I'm just like most of the people in here, I'm very impressed with the delivery by Mr. Sowore. Yeah, he's very articulate, and I believe he spoke with passion from the heart. And I'm sure, Mr. Sowore, you won a lot of souls tonight.
That's right.
I'm sure you won a lot of souls tonight. And listen, Mr. Sowore always lets people know that this is a family. This Take It Back thing is a movement. It's bigger than any one political party. It's a movement. So you can always join this movement. And then it's a movement of volunteers. There's a lot, we have a lot of talent. A lot of people can do different things with this movement. So reach out to Sowore 2019. Find a way to support gofundme.com/Sowore2019. We have some t-shirts over there also from his camp. You can buy some of those t-shirts. You know, he looks good on those with his mohawk. You'll like them. And then you can have different, they sell them for like $10, right? Yeah, $10 a piece.
$10, but you can.
Some people, I've seen people in Brooklyn buy those for $2,000. Some people bought them for $3,000, just one t-shirt. So whatever you can, you do it. And I want to thank all the organizers here tonight. Gaswell Etimenimba, wonderful. God's Time, wonderful. Kola, wonderful.
Thank you.
Aso Rock CEO, wonderful. MJ, wonderful. Eberechi Okereke, wonderful. Rachel, wonderful. My Honorable Mayor, Deputy Mayor Ugokoro, wonderful. Iwenke Wanomara, wonderful. Chairman of our Orange Diaspora Commission, of which I'm a commissioner as well. Carlo UK, Honorable Carlo UK, wonderful. My co-strategist, Friday Ofo, excellent. Wonderful gentleman. The man's been sitting all day. Where are the people, man? Friday, what's up? That's what it is. That's what it is. Yo, please, let's stay passionate. Wherever we go, let's perform service and servitude. Let's lend our help. Let's lend our talent to somebody else. You never know how much life you will change. Even if it means giving $1, $2 to somebody. Even if it means going to some church, donating some money. Even if it means helping someone find a job. Even if it means just getting involved in politics so you could change more lives. Do something. Let's not be selfish. This is about community service. Our ability to effect changes that will help others live a better life. Just for the general good of the people. On behalf of We For We TV, We For We Media, Val Media Foundation, Val Amadi Foundation, I'm saying thank you very much.
Take it back. Take it back.
And please, real quickly, we know a lot of people want to take pictures with Mr. Sowore, and right now we're going to take pictures in what Igbo people will call Nusoro Nusoro, meaning line by line. So everybody will get to take a picture with this wonderful young man. So, Prince, you're going to call out the first list.